record it.
Nice.
I just said it's recording to the cloud, so we'll see if this is working. Megan Schwarz, welcome to Women's Wellness Radio.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you. You're talking about some of my favorite things, just skincare and hormones and women's health. So we are all big advocates of those things around here. And you and I are going to be focusing today on how you put it, taming fussy hormonal skin. So I love that. That's, I think, exactly what a lot of women are dealing with.
Yeah, I would say my focus is mostly on, I consider them the more inflammatory skin conditions, especially hormonal acne, and then dealing with the hyperpigmentation that's left behind. I also dabble a little bit in eczema, psoriasis, rosacea, so you name it.
Okay, great.
I've tackled it.
Yeah. So you, and then when you say it, did you start out with working with it in your own body?
Yes. Okay. So my story is actually pretty familiar to the one that I hear from most women, in that I dealt with acne in my teenage years, but it was the typical teenage picture of acne where it wasn't too terrible. It was something that could easily be covered with makeup, and it wasn't, a constant that I was thinking about in my entire life. And then my dermatologist put me on birth control, and then the acne was just, I never even thought about it. And then in my mid-20s, I went through a stressful period in my life, graduated from law school, trying to find a job in Chicago, and going off the birth control pill at the exact same time. And the hormonal acne just was out of control. I had cystic acne on my cheeks, places that I had never, on my neck, places I had never had acne before. And it just, and a lot of what I was finding online was saying that, within 6 months, 3 to 6 months, it'll go away. It never went away. So I went to the dermatologist. I tried everything that they recommended. I tried doing nothing, but I went, all natural, and just nothing was working. And I couldn't put the pieces together. And I just kept throwing everything I could at it. And it wasn't making sense why the million supplements and all the things I was excluding from my diet and why it wasn't working. And then after, it was one of those moments of, I suddenly had a moment of clarity, where I realized, as much as I wanted it to be about diet or the things I was putting on my skin, stress was my big trigger, and I wasn't doing anything to address it. And so then this is a roundabout way of, so I was able to figure out what I needed to do for my skin. And it's still, I still deal with the occasional breakout, but I'm focused on progress, not perfection. And that's what I help my clients realize. But at some point I realized I had a lot to teach other people. And I really thought that women could benefit from the thousands of hours of research and education that I had. So I went to school, became a health coach, quit being a lawyer, and decided to do my health coaching full time.
That's awesome. It's so great.
Yeah.
I think there's sometimes that bigger thing to tackle. Like, I don't know all the nuances of your career by any means, but you were in a very stressful environment with law school and the competitive environment to get a job, and it probably wasn't like the first thing you changed. You only maybe more recently stopped being an attorney, but I think sometimes there are those big shifts that need to happen that we don't always talk about, because those are some of the hardest, right?
Oh, yeah. And I think that those are the hardest topics to tackle with clients, because, if they're struggling with something like career, it's hard to tell them, what would be best for you is to quit that stressful job. So, we work with what we can. Not everyone is in the fortunate position to be able to move on so easily like I did. So I think that incorporating different self-care techniques to make maybe at the beginning of the day or the end of the day to just help you de-stress are really critical in those situations.
Yeah, it's true. But I want to acknowledge too, like, yeah, you don't always have to quit your job. But
Right.
I think sometimes like there are things that are a big problem in our lives that need to be looked at, you know, and it can affect something like skin. Like you might, like yours is a great story. You know, you changed your diet, you did different things, but you weren't addressing that one big thing that was the hardest to tackle, so to speak. So yeah. So let's start with stress. Like, why does stress get your skin going all crazy?
Stress is really interesting because I think the two of the biggest factors behind in most inflammatory skin conditions, especially hormonal acne, are things like blood sugar imbalance and inflammation. Those are the two that, you know, that I like to address with clients, and stress is a major factor for both of them. Stress causes blood sugar imbalances and it causes inflammation. So even if you have a beautiful diet that's high in fat and low in refined carbs and sugar, you might still experience breakouts if you just have this chronic uncontrolled stress. And like, you know, as someone who's a hormonal health guru, it's stress also robs you of progesterone, which causes sex hormone imbalances. And it just causes multi-system failure.
Okay. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good, I remember when I first started learning about functional medicine, blood sugar stabilization was one of like the most confusing things like that I had to learn about. Like I didn't get that it was a stress on your body to have your blood sugar being going up and down. But it really is. I think it's one that women are guilty of, so to speak, not through stress, but also just like skipping meals or like doing weird diets, that kind of a thing. So that's important. I got a question for you. So we're talking about stress could increase, like I think you said, hormonal acne. And would this mean that say your background is you're having chronic stress, it would make you more apt to acne like during ovulation or during your period?
Right. So a lot of also what stress can do is boost androgen production. And so right around ovulation, you have a nice testosterone surge. And so the stress can actually increase androgen production, which will make that surge more prominent. So you might notice right around like day 14, 15, 16, your skin was looking fine. And then all of a sudden it just looks really inflamed. All of these little bumps start forming under the surface. And then maybe within the next week, it'll calm down and you'll freak out a little bit. But yeah, that's one of those natural, and it can be different for everyone. So some people, yeah, right along when they're actually menstruating will be breaking out. Some people it's during the luteal phase, some people right around ovulation. It's interesting because it is, you think everyone would have the same hormonal picture, but a lot of it is our particular sensitivity level to different hormonal changes.
Well, let's talk about the androgens because I don't know if people fully understand what those are and why those might excite the skin cells.
So the two biggest players for skin are testosterone and DHEA, because your skin actually has its own testosterone receptors, and they'll like those androgens will influence the size of your pores and also your sebum production. So, but what's the most interesting about it is that I think most recent study said 40% of women that have hormonal acne won't even have on their blood work won't show an increase in androgens, which would be like free testosterone in your blood. Because what's interesting is that your skin can just be extra sensitive to androgens. So when you get hormonal blood work done, especially if you're looking at it just for acne, it might be really confusing because you might just see something like when you get off the pill, a typical picture would be low progesterone, and then you'll have an estrogen dominance in relation to that progesterone, but your estrogen levels might actually be normal, and your androgen levels, your testosterone, your DHEA might be normal too. And it's really confusing because then you think, oh, well, androgens must not be the problem. But if it's hormonal acne, they are the problem. So, right. So you could end up troubleshooting progesterone or estrogen dominance and be completely missing the big picture. So what I like to do, so no, you can go on.
Well, the DHEA, is that just because it's a precursor to testosterone, or on its own does it stimulate the skin too?
Yeah, on its own, it stimulates the skin.
Oh, okay. And then what else was I going to ask you? Oh yeah, we had a dermatologist on. She was talking about how the skin has its own like HPA axis kind of a thing. And I wonder if this is sort of what you're talking about. She said like your skin can actually like respond to stress on its own. Like it makes its own little hormones too. Have you studied that at all?
I actually haven't, but like I said, it makes sense because like what I was saying, that your blood work might be showing a completely different picture than what your skin is doing, which is extremely confusing and makes it even harder to know where to start treating.
Okay. So where do we know where to start treating? How do you do with your clients who come in?
So I like to, it really, really depends. So normally by the time people have found me, they've been to the dermatologist, they've read all of the wellness blogs, they've tried a million different things, and they really just are at a loss for why things aren't working. So, and I think that I think that intuitively they have an idea of kind of where things are off in their life. So I think, and a lot of times it'll be something that we just don't want to address. So we intuitively know maybe that it's stress, but like you were saying, I mean, it's one of those, like if the stress in your life is something huge, like your job or your relationship, those are really hard to address. So you just kind of put it on the back burner and eliminate dairy, or, try something else. So what I'd like to do with clients is through an intake form, I like to see, I can kind of, they kind of tell me, they'll say things like, it might be stress, and then I know where to start. So some people we look a lot at diet, some people we look at stress. And then one of the biggest things I like to address for everybody is feelings of low self-worth, because I think that skin conditions, because we think they're so readily apparent to other people, they really do cause, we take a hit to our self-esteem. So I like to provide women with tools to, help with self-love while their skin is changing, because it is a process. I mean, if you think about how many years it took to create that skin condition, it's going to take a little time to undo everything internally that might be off.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, it is really hard. I've definitely dealt with acne. We'll talk about adult acne in a minute, but kind of on and off for a long time, and you just like, you feel like this, this gray cloud over you. I mean, sometimes it's fine, but if you have to go out to a fancy party or you're doing something special and you're like, oh, this actually, some bells are going off in my head. So I'm 43 and, I eat well. My skin has calmed down a lot from when I was younger, but it still can break out. And there's a couple things going on. And recently it went cuckoo crazy. Like I can tell when it's hormones because it's just so inflamed and there's like nothing I can do to like turn it off. It's just on, and then it'll go off on its own. after a few days or whatever. But anyway, this has been happening the last like couple of times I've ovulated. And first I thought it was some new product I was using, so I took that out. And then it happened again next month, and kind of just same thing again. And now you're saying this, and we had a pretty stressful holiday season. My father-in-law was diagnosed with cancer. He just moved in with us. I never like put that together at all, that could be affecting my skin. Although there is one more thing I'm considering, and as I've been using some maca for hormonal, and I think every time I increase my DHEA, it's bad news for me. And maybe it would be different if I was in a different body, but I think I'm very sensitive. So I think this maca also might be just increasing my hormone levels, and I'm not used to it, so to speak. It's kind of like an external stimulus in a way. I don't know if you found this or not, but we have a libido supplement that has a tiny bit of DHEA, and I have to be really careful. Like I can only take one a day and not two. And like, I suspect the maca might be throwing me a little bit too. So I don't know. Have you ever seen that?
I actually have heard that some people react poorly to maca. So I know as an adaptogen, you're like, it's supposed to just bring everything back into balance, but they're like you were saying, I think there are some people that are just extra sensitive to any little hormonal change in their body.
Yeah. So this is interesting. Thanks for troubleshooting that for me. Let's talk more about adult acne. You said it's on the rise. Tell us why.
This is interesting because I get asked this a lot. They're like, well, what is happening with young women? Like, why are they suddenly developing a lot of acne? And I really think it is the superwoman syndrome. I think it is women trying to do it all. It's something that previously we didn't have to deal with. And so the stress of family, job, more education. And then that's normally, it's coupled right around the time of when women go off the birth control pill. So, and what's really interesting about that is, and also, there's been more diagnosis of things like PCOS and, and that could have to do with toxins in the environment. It's just kind of I don't really have the answer to exactly why it's happening, but I know that, someone was saying that 60 years ago, things like adult acne weren't even referenced in textbooks. So it's really interesting about why it's happening more and more today.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to bring in the PCOS, if this polycystic ovarian syndrome, if people haven't heard that. It's pretty high. Like, what is it? Like 1 in 8 women have it or something like that? What have you heard?
And I think it's the leading cause of infertility among women.
Yeah. And it's a spectrum too. And we've had some shows on this. Probably it's been a while, but I'm definitely on that spectrum. I'm really sensitive to androgens. I don't have hair growth. I'm not overweight. So there's a spectrum, and you might not have every symptom. But I've had a lot of stuff with ovarian cysts and cycles being long or off. So again, this is a condition. It kind of starts with blood sugar, and then it creates this extra androgen production that can lead to acne. I think stress can definitely be thrown in there as a cause, and toxins, like you said, too many refined carbs is really common as well. I think there's a genetic component too that will, if you're predisposed, will turn on if you're not careful.
I completely agree.
Yeah. And then what else was I going to follow up with you about that you said? Oh, the birth control pill. So a lot of women use that for acne control, or with a low dose antibiotic. So tell me about those two and how I'm doing air quotes here, how they work and why they may not be the best idea.
Well, as you know, the low dose antibiotic is pretty devastating. Well, for the most part, very few people actually have success with it in terms of acne. So I'm surprised that people are still being put on it. I was actually just talking to a client about it. So then after that, you have to do a lot of work in terms of rebuilding the gut. But the birth control pill is, that's the reason I went on it, was strictly for skin. And What I find a little troubling about it is that I don't think that dermatologists ever talk to women about what's going to happen when they eventually have to come off of it. You know, I think they're so focused on that short-term solution that they don't women. So then women are left kind of completely in the dark. All they're reading is horror stories on the internet of what's happened to, you know, other women who've come off the birth control pill. They're terrified, and they don't really have anyone in their corner who's kind of helping them to understand what is happening to their body on the pill, what it's going to look like off the pill, why their acne will come back, because it will, because that's something they never dealt with internally. Just the same as if you have PCOS or anything that you go on the pill for, it will come back. It's not, the pill is not a solution. It's a Band-Aid. I think that helping women come off the birth control pill is one of my favorite things to do in my practice.
So why does it work? Is it working just lowers hormone levels so there's less to irritate the skin?
It actually doesn't lower hormone levels. It completely eliminates them and replaces them with entirely synthetic hormones. But why it works for acne is because most pills help to block androgens. There are some that actually increase androgen production. And so every so often you'll hear about women who go on a certain form of birth control pill and then they break out even more. And that is because they increase testosterone production. But the fact that, like the Yasmin or the ones that are actually particularly marketed for acne, those are ones that they block testosterone production, which is why you sometimes have low libido coupled with women experiencing that.
That's true.
So that's why they work. But then when you get off the pill, you have this nice testosterone surge that causes your skin to just erupt.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, and I think you're right. Like when we go on it, I went on it because I had ovarian cysts in high school. I was probably already manifesting some PCOS, but no one ever tells you like coming off of it. There's never that conversation. And many women stay on a long, long time. They're not even thinking about, well, someday I'm going to want to have a baby. And we've had some episodes on here about the birth control pill and what it does to your liver and nutrient depletion. And I think there's multiple things that can erupt when we come off the birth control pill or manifest that have been kind of suppressed. And now, yeah, there's a big cleanup job to do when we come off.
Well, it's harmful to your gut too. And so when you couple that with antibiotics, so yeah, the pill alone is not great for gut health. And when you couple that with things like antibiotics, you're working, that your body is, when you come off the pill, your body is in just, like you said, in a nutrient depleted state. Your gut is probably, even if you were trying to eat healthy foods, your gut maybe not even absorbing those nutrients that you're trying to give it. Your hormones were non-existent. Now they're trying, your body is relearning. I like to think of it as like relearning to become a woman. So it's a lot. It's a big burden on your body.
Yeah, we've had some previous episodes on natural birth control. So I know it's solving a problem. It's solving sometimes a few problems. I get it, but there are other solutions. Let's talk a bit more about the gut and why gut health is important for acne or other skincare.
Well, I think that for me, I think that the gut and liver kind of work in tandem together. And they're both helping so your liver detoxes pretty much all of your hormones. And then your gut has a specific detoxing system for estrogen. And actually, interestingly, if you're not so basically having both running optimally will help you to eliminate hormones as necessary. So you don't have old hormones being recycled into your body, because as you build up estrogens, interestingly, excess estrogens can actually increase androgen production, which it's a complicated mechanism. So you really want your organs of elimination to be working optimally.
Okay, that's interesting. I don't know if I knew that excess estrogen increased androgens. Good to know. You're teaching me something. Well, let's get into skincare. So I don't know if we totally have, I think when I read your website, it's like we do put a lot of emphasis on putting things on our skin. And obviously what we're talking about here is reducing stress, taking out synthetic things, increasing detox capacity. How about what do we actually put on our skin?
So skincare is really interesting for me because I have my story behind skincare is that my only understanding, other than reading things like sugar and dairy may increase acne, my only understanding of how to combat acne was topical products. And so when I started my journey of healing my own skin, I bought anything and everything that said it was marketed for acne, especially in the realm of natural products. I really went down the rabbit hole of eliminating toxins in chemicals in your skincare. I thought that maybe that was contributing to it. So anything that caught my eye, I bought. And then I was constantly switching out products on my skin, and nothing seemed to be working. And the more I tried new products that didn't work, the crappier I felt about myself, as if the product's not working was somehow a reflection of my self-worth. And so I really like to approach skincare with caution with clients, because I think that it's really disempowering to place too much reliance on topical products. I think that I like to focus them on products that I think are beneficial for skin health generally. I think there are certain things like vitamin C and oil-based moisturizers that are just really good for overall skin health. And I think the healthier that your skin is, the less likely it's going to produce the things that are troubling you, like acne. But I think that kind of using skincare to put out fires is not, I like to approach it backwards. I like to have your skin as functioning as optimally as possible. And then hopefully from there, you won't be experiencing as many breakouts or rosacea or post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation or whatever it is.
Okay. I like that. So you just kind of keep it simple with things that we know are good for the skin, kind of like simpler ingredients and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Would you say? Okay.
Yeah, that's yeah. I would say that skincare is one of the first things that people ask me about. And that's, because it's one of the easiest things for people to change. They want your recommendation, and then they just go on the internet and they buy it and they start using it. But I like to, I just caution people that I think that you should give your skincare a chance to work. And then also I help people manage expectations, because if you have a sensitivity to androgens or hormonal fluctuations, you might still have a breakout here and there. And I think this striving for perfect, poreless perfection is where a lot of us are going wrong, is that we want the airbrush skin that we see in magazines. And if we keep getting one or two breakouts, we see that as just complete failure.
Yeah. And I think everyone has their tendencies, right? Like I don't tend to gain weight really easily, but my skin tends to break out easily. Like I do a lot of things right. It still does it sometimes. So we all have our stuff. It's just different for everybody, what
Right.
our little things are. So yeah, I think just, kind of managing it the best you can. So yeah, I wonder, any other tips you want to give around, you mentioned sugar and dairy can contribute to acne. Any other things that you like clients come to you and you're like surprised they haven't tried this change yet?
What's wonderful about it is that I'm continually learning. So one of my so in terms of diet, like you said, I actually think my approach is a little unique, because I do believe that there's an element of intuitive eating and still maintaining clear skin, because I think that we can become a little so obsessed with our diet that it can increase the stress in our lives. And so I think that, so I always try to tell people to minimize things like sugar and dairy, and grains, because grains actually, refined grains can spike androgen production. But you have to live your life. But anyway, what I was going to say is one of the things that I've discovered recently is spearmint tea is an amazing androgen blocker. So that is something that I like it's something easy that I like clients to incorporate into their lives.
Oh, I like that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if I'm starting to carry essential oils too. So I wonder if I can get that in essential oil too. And put a drop in your water or something like that. Yeah. I like that. And it could be good for say I'm excellent at making androgens. I'm very good at it. And maybe if I'm going through a stressful time, in addition to trying to meditate and take care of myself, doing some peppermint tea could be a nice addition.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like to think of it as nature's spironolactane.
Yeah. Do you have any other fun ones like that? Like the tea? They come to mind?
Oh God. Not off the top of my head. I'm sure it'll come to me, but I'm trying to think of
go ahead.
Oh, I was just trying to think of all the little random biohacking experiments I've performed on myself, which is many.
Yeah. Well, and I think I found you on Instagram. I think I saw something you wrote about hormones and skin, and I was like, oh, I want to get so you have ongoing resources if people want to get little tips. Tell us what you write about.
So, what's wonderful is that I pretty much have just write about what I am thinking about at the time. I really haven't had to struggle for things to write about. So if you can look back and you can see when I was really interested in liver health, or when I was really interested in gut health, or when I'm talking about low progesterone or estrogen dominance. And then, like I said, right now I'm really into helping women, challenge these feelings of low self-worth, because I think that if you have an androgen sensitivity, that a few blemishes here and there might be an ongoing thing. And I really just want women to realize that they're more than their skin, that, you have to untie how you feel about yourself from the state of your skin, because it's an organ. It's going to be responding to stimuli in the environment that's oftentimes beyond your control. And so to have that be what sets the tone for your day is just kind of devastating.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true. I think it's nice that you're embracing that and modeling that too. I have a friend who does weight loss, and she was like, I'm just feeling a little embarrassed about putting on this event now because I'm heavier than I want to be right now. And we were all like, girl, forget about that. You look great. It does fluctuate no matter who we are. As health coaches don't have it all figured out either. So yeah, I'm just looking at your blog, which is called Your Journal, which is so cute, which goes with what you said. And I think I'm similar. I don't want to write about something that I was interested in 6 months ago. I only want to write about what I'm interested in right now. It's my way of researching. This is so pretty. You have the best images that you've come up with on your blog.
I find that if you're trying to write about something that you were interested in 6 months ago, it's such a struggle. And I don't know if readers can tell that or not, but it's just not fun to write about.
Yeah. I think, you can have your niche, so to speak, but I like to have enough room in there to explore certain areas. In the skin, there's certainly lots to explore. Like you mentioned, it's your feelings about yourself or your stress or your liver or your diet. There's plenty in there for us to explore.
Right. And I think that as someone who struggled with my own skin, I think that maybe it's a little more relatable, because oftentimes I would find people who had different hormonal imbalances that were causing different problems. And they would say something simple like, oh, I just, eliminated dairy and my skin was beautiful. And I think that can be a little off-putting for people where it's a constant struggle. And they're like, yes, I've done that. I did that 2 years ago and it's not helping. So, and that's why I really I think everyone's tolerance for these foods is different. And like, I was saying before, I think you intuitively kind of know whether a food is good for you or not. A lot, if you tend to feel crappy if a food is not good for you, and you can deny it as long as you want. But like on some level, if you have heartburn every time you eat ice cream, those kinds of, it's rarely going to be something hidden where you feel fine every single time you eat peanuts, and then lo and behold, that's the entire reason you have acne. Normally, peanuts.
Although peanuts are a very questionable.
That's true. I only bring that one up because I do have a friend that was saying that she was like, I had all these breakouts around my mouth, and then I just eliminated peanuts, and now they're gone. I was like,
yeah.
If only it was that easy for all of us.
I know. Yeah. But peanuts they're moldy for one thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So you've also offered a 15-minute chat if people are interested in hormonal consults or skin consults. So yeah, we'll share the link for that for everybody listening. And anything else you wanted to share, Megan?
Nothing. Just like I said before, I think that if I could do one thing for women, it would just be to help them. If I could find their secret sauce for feeling good in their own skin, like that is what I look for in each session. Whatever I can do to help you feel better about yourself. That's my goal.
Yeah. And I love what you do. I think it's similar to what we do. Like, I can't tell you ahead of time what that magic bullet is going to be, and maybe we'll never find it, but it's very empowering and helpful to have someone in your corner that you can just talk to and say, I've tried this and I've tried this. And part of it is just like the experience and the synergy, I think, of working with someone who has experience like you, but also it's just like, yeah, I don't know, this meeting of the minds and hearts that like, hey, let's wrap our arms around this.
Yeah, like I said, there's so much information out there. It's so overwhelming that sometimes in the 15-minute chats, I tell people like, if you want a session that's entirely just troubleshooting and you just want to ask me all the questions that you have, we can do that too. Just whatever I can do to help you feel more comfortable on your journey.
Yeah, we get some clients who are really far down the road. They're all practitioners and they're like, I just want to vet different ideas I have and I'm thinking of trying next. So yeah, we're okay with that. Yeah. Well, thanks again, Megan. For everyone listening, we will post all Megan's links, her Instagram, which is I think where I found her, on the blog notes and the show notes. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.